It is a lament for the lost world of Waxworks. It's that kind of wax. Yeah. Sorry. This is me just lately at Arundel Castle, where I was delighted to walk into a room and find a load of wax people defending the castle from one of the sieges that happened during the Civil War. You know, find these kind of things pretty much anywhere and everywhere, but what I'm particularly talking about here is wax museums. And the first one I ever visited was Louis Tussaud's House of Wax in Brighton, which I was taken to. I grew up in Eastbourne, and one day in the early 70s, my mum and dad took me and my two brothers to Louis Tussaud's French Waxworks. I've got YouTube to thank for this picture. As you can see here, it's from the late 70s, this, because they're swanky about having John Travolta. But we went in the early 70s, and the thing that was still pertinent at this time, what we've got is, there was this tableau in the window of the pit and the pendulum, and it's not very easy to see, but there is a guy lying along the length of the window, and he's about to be sliced in two. And it wasn't exactly Disney, but still there was an animatronic element to this, because the pendulum would swing back and forth with the razor-sharp blade, and the guy, every time the axe swung away from him, his head would sort of come up like that, looking at the engine of his destruction, and then come down as it came back. Now, Louis Tussaud, there's a number of waxworks, still one or two that bear his name. Louis Tussaud was he was a great-grandson, apparently, of Madame Marie Tussaud, and sometime during the Victorian period, he parted company with the family and opened his own place on Regent Street. Long gone, of course, but he did also pimp out his name to various places. And so, according to the internet, there's still a waxworks in Bangalore, which bears his name. The next one I went to with my family was Louis Tussaud's House of Wax in Great Yarmouth, which we were on a boating holiday on the Norfolk Broads in '75, and we went there, and topmost among my memories is the Chamber of Horrors, where there was a thing called the Algerian hook, which was a giant hook, and there was a guy suspended from it by his intestines, which was good. We'll be coming back later to the House of Wax, because I did, many years later. But next up, of course, was Madame Tussauds, top of the crop, you might say, of Baker Street, London. Of course, it's many years since it was actually in Baker Street. It's actually on Marylebone Road. But anyway, here's a picture I took actually on a subsequent visit. I first went with my grandmother in 1976, beginning of 76. I later took this picture. Of course, this is Louis XVI and his lovely wife, Marie Antoinette. Madame Tussaud, as she eventually became, Marie Groscholz, as she was born, claimed that she used to model heads from the steaming, newly decapitated heads from the guillotine. There's reason to think she may have been exaggerating this, though she was certainly there at the time of the revolution and was involved. But more of that in a bit. And just so you know, it's not just blood and guts and decapitated royals that I'm interested in. I've also got this picture that I also took at a later date of a much happier royal family. The Tussaud people always, in their brochures, tell you how they do it. This is one from the original brochure I got, where they took you through how to make a model of Liza Minnelli. What they do is they make a full-scale, sculpture in clay, and then from that they make the molds. And actually the body tends to be made out of fiberglass, but the head, obviously, is they make I think it's a 12-part mould, about 12 pieces, which they then take apart and then put back together, and then pour the molten wax into it, and there it is emerging. And then what they do, what marks them out from a lot of other wax museums, is that they have in-house workshops that make their own things, and they also, whereas most others will buy in a figure and stick a wig on it, they actually implant thousands of individual strands of hair into the warmed scalp. So there she is with all the makeup and stuff, and that's her in the exhibition in the thing called the conservatory that they used to have there. Of course, they're not always, or haven't always been as good as that. There's been some variation of quality. At one time, they had a very good poster featuring Humphrey Bogart, and they obviously took the wise decision to actually use a picture of Bogart himself, because the figure that they actually had in the exhibition at the time wasn't quite so good. That said, as I say, it's a matter of variable quality. Madame Tussaud actually took this one, this is The Death of Marat, apparently from the life, or rather from the just recently dead. The revolutionaries, of course, were very big on spin. They also got Jacques-Louis David, the painter, in, who did a portrait, and Marat must have been sitting there in his bath, sort of festering in the summer heat, and they had all these creative people around taking sketches to do portraits both on canvas and in wax. To know how good this is, well, you can see, I think, you only have to compare and contrast to the version I saw at the San Francisco Waxworks in 1980. Here we go. What I think is interesting about this is that here's Marat, and here's Charlotte Corday, who's just plunged this into his aorta or whatever, and she somehow has avoided the inevitable spray of blood, so she's still got this virgin white dress. I also like this dresser, which has virtually nothing on it apart from a nameplate, and I don't know if that's unimaginative set dressing or whether it's meant to reflect the ascetic lifestyle that he aspired to, Marat. Anyway, other wax museums I have visited, well, there was another one actually in San Francisco. This is the Chinatown Waxworks. There was also the Movieland Wax Museum. This is my picture. I'm quite proud of the way I captured the late winter Californian sun there. Bit less proud of this one of the deck of the USS Enterprise. But hey, you know, it's all my own work. I could have just scanned something from the souvenir brochure, which I still have. You know, at least this is, yeah. And also closer to home, there's Osborne Smith's Wax Museum in Brading, in supposedly the most haunted house on the island. I went first of all with my brother and his family. There we are, outside. Oh, pardon me, that wasn't meant to happen. Best thing for my money at the Wax Museum, Osborne Smith's Wax Museum, was this. It was the tale of a local woman who apparently died at some point, and she was lying in state in the church, and apparently the top of the coffin creaked open because she wasn't dead after all. Now, whether the Grim Reaper was actually serenading her, we don't know, but you know, that's pretty good. You know, proper creepy, which is what it's all about, let's face it, with Waxworks. That's probably why I like them anyway. Yeah, another Louis Tussaud, this one in Copenhagen, and this was only about 10 years ago or something. I went to this one. What? This is brilliant. Brilliant. This is the Hall of Artists, right? We've got Van Gogh here with more than a bit of Kirk Douglas about him. I think this is probably Reynolds. We've got Dali, that guy, the little guy. Toulouse-Lautrec, that's it. And you see, they've all. It's all as if they're painting the Mona Lisa in their own particular style. So, old, the Dali one, her arm is on a load of stilt kind of things. Anyway, moving on. Also, again, closer to home, we've got the Royalty and Empire exhibit in Windsor, which used to be it's better, in the half of the railway station there. Now, after I did, it's all about Queen Victoria, and here's the Guard of Honour. And when I did this talk at the Catalyst Club in Brighton, at the Q&A afterwards, someone said that they actually used to work at this thing, and he revealed that because there's a couple of dozen at least soldiers here, and even anonymous figures will be expensive to make from scratch. So apparently somewhere in there was a guardsman with the head of Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, that's true apparently. Anyway, here's my pop visiting, that's him, not him, visiting at the time, this is in the mid-80s, and there's me with a lot more hair, at least on the top of my head, anyway. Not so much, although I was trying to grow a beard at the time for the first time. Succeeded at last. Anyway, here's the Hollywood Wax Museum, which myself and my parents and my two brothers went to in the year 1980. Now, what marks this out from all the others that I've talked about? The answer is that this one is still going strong on Hollywood Boulevard, the same place it was, 40 years ago or whatever it is. Whereas all the others I've been to, maybe I'm just the kiss of death, but they're all gone. Including Osborne Smith's, and there are also ones that I didn't mention before, the Frygate Museum in York, the Edinburgh Wax Museum, and this one, I wonder if Francesca ever went to this, in Stratford. It was the Louis Tussauds Shakespearean exhibition, where they had tableaus of Shakespearean plays featuring famous people inhabiting the roles. So, for instance, there was Frankie Howerd playing Bottom. Don't have a picture of that, unfortunately. Anyway, the point is that they've all gone the way of all wax, and pretty much the Tussauds Empire is the only one that remains. Here's me at the one in Blackpool a few years ago. I don't think this picture does full justice to how good the thing of David Beckham is there, because all the waxworks in this place, sorry, I don't think I said, it had recently been taken over by the Madame Tussauds people after being a Louis Tussauds. And the figures there are superb, but actually so good, they're a bit dull. I mean, it's partly the fact that they're all kind of people from TV, from the world of entertainment, there's no historical figures. But, yeah, they're good to the point of boring, although interestingly, I did come across, sort of during the exhibition, you come across unheralded what are clearly heads from the old exhibition. And so you've got people like Whoopi Goldberg, and Judith Chalmers there, Frank Sinatra, Mr. T, Ozzy Osbourne, Elaine Page. But also, here's Mr. Charlie Caroli. Who remembers Charlie Caroli? Yeah, right, children!
It's funny, children!
Yeah, that wasn't what he said, actually. He said, he'd say, right, children, and they'd say, right, Charlie. Okay, never mind. Thank you for trying, anyway. But, yeah, I mean, you know, an exhibition, a wax exhibition in Blackpool that doesn't feature Charlie Crowley except as a disembodied head, there's something wrong there, in my view. So I wish I'd got there to see the old exhibition. Now, any readers of the Daily Mail here will be familiar with the fact that every so often, in the good old days, when they had a bit of a quiet news week in the summer, they would run a centre spread about Britain's or the world's crappiest wax museum. And they'd say, can you spot who these are meant to be? Actually, they're not great, but I think you can tell pretty much who they are meant to be. Although, granted, your Neil Kinnock there, your Neil Kinnock probably looks more like the spitting image version than the man himself. But, some years ago now, I conceived the idea of doing a radio documentary about the decline of the English Waxworks. And I got in touch with the lady who actually runs this place and arranged to go and interview her. And shortly after I talked to her, it turned out I got this acting gig, because I'm an actor, by the way. Yeah, another one. A corporate gig, which was for a Sainsbury's training programme, which was taking place over that summer at various branches of Centre Parks. I got to do one at the one at Sherwood Forest, near Nottingham, obviously. I was... there was a male and a female actor on each of these assignments, pretending to be Sainsbury's people, talking about instances of bad management. And so I was with a lady called Jenny Rowe on this occasion, and we were getting on quite well. And one day after we'd finished work for the day, in the morning, I went off to interview the woman at the House of Wax. Now, Great Yarmouth is not very near to Nottingham. It's probably, about 20 miles nearer than if I'd gone up from Brighton. So I thought, well, obviously, yeah, I'm going to drive across 3 counties and go and interview this woman on my day off. So I did that. I said to Jenny, do you fancy coming with me? And she said, no, that's okay, thanks. Okay, fine. So off I went to the... across a very drizzly Lincolnshire and into Norfolk, and got to Louis Tussaud's House of Wax. Now, Jane, the lady who ran it, was not keen on people taking pictures because of the whole Daily Mail thing, and this was fair game because this was in a display case out the front. Here you can see my shining pate reflected in the glass. Pardon me, again. And of course this is the picture that they were going to use, they would have used in the Radio Times to illustrate my documentary when they broadcast it, though of course that never happened. Anyway, so I interviewed Jane, and then I went for a walk on the beach and reminisced about going there first with my parents and my brothers in 1975. Then I drove back across 3 counties back to Sherwood Forest. And even though Jenny had elected, in her wisdom, not to come on this trip with me, she had actually waited to have dinner. Even though I didn't get back till about 9:30 and all the restaurants on the site were about to close. And I thought that was a good omen, a good sign, and so it proved, because we did start going out shortly thereafter, because we were both from Brighton, and we ended up getting married. And this was good, not only because she's great, but also because, though I did not save the English regional waxworks, I did at least find someone to go with me to see waxworks, when you can find them. Mostly now they're either sort of like little things you come across in Arundel Castle, or you have to go to another country like Ireland. And this is in fact in the National Wax Museum in Dublin. And there's a kind of so-so Brendan Behan here. By the way, it looks like we've deliberately dressed colour-coordinated to blend in with this literary salon at the Wax Museum. It's entirely a coincidence. And there's an extraordinarily good Samuel Beckett there, I think. So, anyway, I see another one. Yes, I thought I'd taken this one out. Never mind. This is us with some evacuees at the RAF Museum in Hendon. Just shows you can find wax works anywhere. And that's about it. Thank you very much.